These past few days, I've been closely following the fierce competition in the electric vehicle industry. After Xiaomi's electric vehicle pre-launch, they've been hesitant to disclose the price, keeping everyone in suspense. With major vehicle brands reducing prices like BYD Qin dropping to 79,800 yuan recently, I feel like the EV market is in a rat race. Xiaomi must be in pain right now. They haven't even considered selling yet, but they have to think about price reductions first. With slim profits to begin with, lowering prices won't make them money, but not lowering prices means they'll lose competitiveness and can't sell. It's a lose-lose situation. I thought about the root cause and finally figured it out. When the entire nation, its consumers, have no money, nobody can survive. Entering 2024, describing the rat race within the electric vehicle market as a bloody fight is not an exaggeration. Since February, a price war ignited by top car maker BYD has intensified. At the beginning of this year, BYD was the first to slash prices by 20,000 yuan on its models priced around 100,000 yuan, with the lowest price dropping to 79,800 yuan. This forced all competitors to follow suit. In Harbin, the capital of Heilongjiang province, prices at major dealerships for brands like Geely, Wuling Motors, and Chang'an Automobile have seen reductions ranging from 10,000 to 30,000 yuan. According to reports, the average price cut for new EVs reached 30%, not only forcing gasoline vehicles to cut prices to clear inventory, but also bringing a heavy blow to the second-hand car market. Some large second-hand car dealers are even finding it difficult to compete any longer and are considering changing to another industry. It's devastating. The price war for gasoline vehicles has erupted. Major manufacturers have launched price reduction activities, one after the other, with each offering bigger discounts. Honda Accord cut prices by 30,000 yuan, Audi A7L by 38,000 yuan, and the A6L by 90,000 yuan. Some Mercedes-Benz models reportedly saw price cuts of 120,000 yuan. 30 brands have participated in price cuts. Why are so many cars reducing prices? It all started with Tesla. Since the beginning of the year, Tesla has been continuously reducing prices. In China, the Model 3 dropped from 265,000 yuan to 229,000 yuan, while the Model Y dropping from 288,000 yuan to 259,000 yuan. Both models reached historically low prices. Tesla's strategy works so well. According to Tesla's official announcement in China, it sold nearly 34,000 vehicles in retail in February, a 26% increase from the previous month. With such growth, they're definitely taking business from others. What can others do? They have to lower prices too, so domestic new EVs have to follow suit. While Tesla competes with new EVs, other new EVs compete with gasoline vehicles. Gasoline vehicles could no longer hold up, so the car market's price war escalated. The automobile market is collapsing. Prices for new cars have completely plummeted. You could get a brand new Nissan Sylphy for 69,800 yuan and a Hyundai Elantra for 75,800 yuan. The Peugeot 408X offers cash subsidies of 85,000 yuan. The Cadillac CT5, previously sold for 290,000 yuan, is now available for only 219,700 yuan. You can get an Audi A4 for 220,000 yuan and a Volkswagen Touareg for 140,000 yuan. These are the prices for new cars this year. Not only electric vehicles, but also gasoline vehicles' prices have collapsed across the board. Some say that due to the reduction in battery costs, new EVs have cut prices to seize the market. The traditional gasoline car market was expected to reduce production to stabilize prices and sales, but now it seems that this is far from the case. This battle is not only a battle for the dignity of traditional cars, but also determines how many years gasoline cars can be sold in China. If they don't win this battle decisively, it will lose the domestic market entirely. In the car industry, the CCP's dream was to quickly surpass Japan and become the world's largest exporter. But in terms of gasoline vehicles, China had no technological advantage, so they had to find another way. China set their targets on EVs, pouring national resources and massive subsidies into promoting and developing them. Meanwhile, the CCP was aggressively buying up lithium mines overseas, aiming to gain upfront advantage in the entire new EV industry chain. Over the past 2 years, with the rapid development of the global EV industry, major automobile companies have been competing for lithium resources. The Chinese government has purchased large-scale lithium mines around the world. In their own words, They want others to feel the bottleneck. No one expected, at the beginning of 2024, lithium prices took a nosedive. It dropped from a peak of 600,000 yuan per ton last year to less than 90,000 yuan per ton. The CCP's investment in lithium mines ended up being a total loss. Some say that compared to seizing the global market and becoming a key player in the entire EV industry, the premium on lithium mines is insignificant in the face of huge profits and a first-mover advantage. But what made the Chinese government even more dumbfounded was that just while Huawei and Xiaomi were in full swing with their new EVs, car companies from Japan, Europe, and the United States unexpectedly announced at the beginning of 2024 that they were abandoning EV development. Instead, they would focus on upgrading gasoline vehicles or researching new energy sources. Apple announced that it would no longer develop new EVs, it would instead shift focus to mobile AI. Almost at the same time, Mercedes-Benz plan to stop producing traditional cars by 2030 was completely overturned, resuming gasoline vehicle production plans. Another automotive giant, Toyota, also announced that it would increase its focus on hydrogen-powered vehicles. French automotive giant Renault stated that it would reduce its EV business and focus more on hybrid models. Volkswagen planned to shift towards fuel cell vehicle development. Ford announced that it will lay off about 70,000 people worldwide and significantly reduce investments in the EV market. In competitive environments, when one participant uses aggressive tactics to gain an advantage, it often leads to others to withdraw, leaving the individual to compete alone, crashing their way through, suffering losses along the way. As the saying goes, a small ship is easy to turn around. Outside of China, the development of new EVs are mostly done through the investment of private companies. If they give up, they might lose some research and development expenses at most. But for the Chinese government, the situation is different. EVs are a major national project, and massive financial subsidies have been invested in it. It's impossible to give up, and they can't afford to lose face. Of course, some argue that these European and American car companies are giving up because they can't compete with China, so they flee in defeat, believing that China will inevitably dominate the global electric vehicle market. Indeed, for European and American car companies, relying solely on their own strength would indeed be difficult to compete with a national state. In the future, Chinese EVs might be phased out, because right now, in the eyes of Americans, EVs are just a temporary alternative energy source. So we really need this industry right now. But how long can it last? Just look at this year's indicators, and you'll get an idea. In a field that has only been hot for a few years, instead of discussing technology or user experience, we've been in a fierce price war. This suggests that we may be reaching a stage end. In 2024, the EV industry will undergo a major reshuffle, and the entire industry is actually on shaky ground. Why say that? Because the core of the price war isn't just about the rat race. It's about the low entrance threshold. Just like back when countless companies made copycat phones, the momentum was intimidating. But how many companies survived in the end? This year, EV's market share has exceeded 30%, but brands like Weltmeister, Hengqi, Innovate, Neutron, Levdio, and many others that you might not have even heard of have already closed down. They've burned through billions, and now some halted production and some went bankrupt. Also, if you look at the car company CATL, which is considered as the barometer of the EV market in China, there are already idle production lines and capacity, indicating a misjudgment in industry growth. The demand for the entire industry is not as high as we imagined. As for why domestic demand in China is so sluggish, I believe everyone knows why. The blogger's point is clear to the Chinese people. We've taken the wrong path, but we have to keep going because this is an industry the CCP needs. The reason for the lackluster domestic demand is that people across the country simply don't have money. This is an internal issue, but what about external demand? The overall global trend is that electric vehicles aren't as popular as we thought. Last October, it took American dealers an average of 39 days to sell off EV inventory, a number that has now extended to 88 days this year. In comparison, the cycle for gasoline vehicles is only 60 days. With no growth, profits naturally plummet. Even Tesla, in such a dire market environment, has to consider its investments. Tesla has now postponed plans to invest over $5 billion in a super factory in Mexico. They've stated that they need to reassess before making further plans. Meanwhile, negative reports about EVs in foreign mainstream media continue to increase. In addition to insufficient safety, environmental protection is a big issue. EVs were supposed to represent the future of clean energy, but the pollution caused by lithium mining has been exposed. Extracting 1 ton of lithium consumes 500 tons of water, and has long-term impacts on both surface and underground water. Plus, many developing countries rely on thermal power to generate electricity and burn coal. So isn't charging EVs essentially burning coal? This is directly at odds with environmental protection. People who wanted to buy have also hesitated. In other words, the Western world is quitting because they realize that they're heading in the wrong direction. Lithium battery vehicles are neither safe nor environmentally friendly. The market prospects aren't good either, which goes against the original intention of developing EVs. Until genuinely safe and environmentally friendly new EVs are developed, gasoline vehicles remain the preferred choice in Europe and the United States. So even if you monopolize all the lithium mines in the world, without demand they're just worthless. Even if only China produces lithium battery EVs globally and seizes all markets, if nobody buys them, they're just a pile of scrap metal. Finally, the blogger said that in 2023, the government originally wanted new EVs to take on the burden of real estate, driving the economy. But the prospects are very bleak. It's hard to imagine how much more intense competition will be in 2024, and which brands might be forced out, and which ones will have the last laugh. In recent years, the entire Chinese EV industry has been full of chaos. As a video blogger mentioned earlier, the core of the price war is not just about internal competition, but also about low entrance thresholds. Many domestically produced cars are flooding the market at low prices. These so-called brand name cars are overpriced and of poor quality. This has raised public doubts in the safety of domestic vehicles. Have you noticed that the development of EVs has gone a bit off course in the past 2 years? Every car company, when launching a new car, focuses on who has faster acceleration, a bigger touchscreen, or smarter driving features, rather than who has a stronger car body, a more secure battery pack, or better overall powertrain. In fact, a 0 to 60 acceleration in 4 or 5 seconds already provides a strong push. But what's the use of aiming for top-notch acceleration within 2 to 3 seconds when you're just driving to the grocery store, stuck in traffic every day, with speed cameras on every road and traffic lights at every intersection? What good does faster acceleration do? Can your car withstand the force of impact? In an accident, some cars will have 2.5 of their A, B, and C pillars broken. You've enlarged the center control screen so much, even including screens for the passenger and back seat. But with a crappy branded EV, you can't even find a wife. What's the use of all those screens? Instead of putting so many screens, it'd be better to buy a car that comes with a wife as a bonus. Some cars even have a refrigerator and a big sofa. Why not just add a gas stove to the car, so you can cook while you drive? Plus, many of these additional features are similar ones from the same company. So how much better off can your car be? Now, it feels like the EV market is in a bit of a mess. In order to seize the market, car companies are launching new cars one after the other. No one knows how long R&D was or whether testing took place. They hold a press conference, but the cars haven't even been made yet, and the pre-orders have already started. Netizens have left comments saying that the situation of EVs is now similar to that of Android phones a few years ago, because it's still the same people making them. The following is an online conversation between netizens. One netizen joked, "What are the 3 major components of a car?" The answer, a refrigerator, a big screen TV, and a large sofa. Another netizen said, "Isn't there a brand that terminated third-party cooperation in the past 2 days because they found something in the testing?" Someone asked, "Which brand?" Numerous netizens replied, "I dare not say." One said, "The leading brand." Another said, "What else? The brand that is tied to our great nation." Netizens replied, "Oh, got it, got it." Here, netizens are referring to BYD, which claims to be the global leader in new EV sales. It is a car company heavily protected by the CCP, with negative news strictly prohibited. Li Auto's vehicle broke again. This is talking about the A-pillar of the Li Auto vehicles breaking again. A person rear-ended a large truck on the highway, driving a Li Auto L7, and you can see severe damage to the front of his car. The most serious is the A-pillar that has been deformed and fractured. It's not just the A-pillar, the B and C pillars and the entire car body have deformed. This quality is quite worrying. The car owner said that there was no passenger in the front seat at the time, or the consequences would have been unimaginable. Here's the main point. The car is already in a scrap state, yet none of the safety airbags deployed. The car owner said the impact speed was 104 kilometers per hour, which is around 64 miles per hour. Looking at the pictures of the car owner took, the entire front passenger side has been completely destroyed, indicating significant impact. However, the response from Li Auto's customer service was that the impact angle was incorrect, or the force wasn't enough for the airbags to deploy. The incident at Li Auto's broken A-pillar is no exception. The Li Auto's crash test scores are good, but how could it be like this in a real accident? Industry insider said, "The cars tested by the manufacturer for research and development purposes are completely different in quality from the mass-produced cars. Anyone in the car industry understands this. If so-called leading manufacturers have such poor quality, one can imagine the quality of the remaining brands." Like chips in recent years, the Chinese government's huge subsidies for EVs have led to a rush of car manufacturing. Everyone is jumping into the industry. Those who make mobile phones, home appliances, and even internet companies are making cars. Netizens mocked, "We are waiting for Laogan Ma and Wahaha to make cars." Taipei's Leon Energy Director, Chen Ziang, said that in the past, the Chinese government's financial subsidies often led to a production capacity expansion rate far exceeding the global demand, resulting in a decrease in gross profit margin and ultimately the industry dying out. Chen said that in the past 3 years, at least 75 car brands have been eliminated from China's EV market, and it is estimated that by 2025, 60 or 70% of brands will be eliminated. According to a recent report by the Shaoxiang Morning Herald, in Nanning City, the local plant of Whone Auto, which is regarded as a major landmark project by the local government, has suspended operations. The report said that this car company, which has been established for 10 years, saw a significant decline in sales in 2023 due to the failure to upgrade production to high-end models. In February this year, only 6,085 vehicles were delivered, a nearly 40% decrease year-on-year. Previously, another EV company, Hi-Fi, announced a 6-month shutdown on February 18th. According to analysis by the China Association of Automobile Manufacturers, the market share of new EVs in January 2024 was 30%, and the data showed a month-on-month decline in both the domestic and export markets. The future was very uncertain, especially in the export market. BYD, claiming to be the world's #1 in sales, has caused safety concerns in Europe and America. As of the end of last year, BYD, with the help of generous subsidies from the Chinese government and low-cost labor, beat all Western EVs with a very high price-to-performance ratio. In the last quarter of 2023, BYD sold 520,000 vehicles, surpassing Tesla's 480,000 vehicles sold, becoming the world's largest EV seller. In addition to China, BYD has also expanded into markets in Southeast Asia, Japan, Europe, and so on. However, last year, it only sold 16,000 vehicles in Europe, with tens of thousands of cars still parked in European warehouses. In January this year, a BYD bus in London caught fire, raising concerns about its quality among consumers. British authorities recalled nearly 2,000 BYD electric buses. The think tank European Council on Foreign Relations issued a warning at the end of January, stating that the safety risks posed by Chinese-made EVs are greater in many respects than China's 5G networks and are more challenging to address. Head of the European Council on Foreign Relations, Janka Ortel, recently released a report titled Security Recall: The Risk of Chinese Electric Vehicles in Europe, warning that widespread adoption of Chinese-made EVs in Europe will bring challenges and may ultimately have an impact on geopolitics. Recently, the US government has also focused on China's EVs in its efforts to decouple from China, by investigating whether they pose a threat to US national security. In the future, how many Chinese car companies will survive? Last year, the head of XPeng Motors, He Xiaopeng, said that by 2030, no more than 8 car companies will remain. Huawei's Richard Yu said that the future of the automotive industry will be extremely brutal, with only a few car companies able to survive, and Huawei can help these companies survive. Netizens commented, "Every day, they claim to be global leaders with big talk. Once they face challenges, they have no solution, but they still claim to be global leaders." Another commented, "To survive or not to survive, that is the question."